This is Mike, and everybody watches AccessTV.org.
I'm Joe Markley, State Senator from Southington. I have a few remarks on my experience with SB 727, the ethics bill that Ambassador Foley and I were here with a few weeks ago before the GAE committee. I believe that the people that make up the General Assembly are good people. I think their motives in getting into politics, I would go so far as to say universally, are good motives. And I think it's possible for the legislature to be better and not worse than the sum of its parts. I think this place and the building next door to us, the Capitol building, should be a place that inspires us, that we can be proud to serve in, and that should never be a hiss and a byword to the people of the state of Connecticut. I think high ethical standards are one of the ways that we can become true servants of the people. And I applaud Tom Foley for raising what is obviously a very difficult issue, an issue that it is difficult to get a hearing for literally within the institution itself. And I would urge my colleagues in the legislature to consider the intent of what we've put forward and to join us in an effort to establish well-considered, well-defined rules for our own behavior so that we do not have to worry about investigation and scrutiny from outside, so that we ourselves know that we're doing the right thing here in Hartford. And I'm here because I'm proud to be a part of the effort that Tom started. And I want to do all I can to encourage this work and encourage his further involvement with it going forward, because I think he's in a unique position to understand what it is that we face and to bring attention to something that otherwise I think is too easily ignored in the rush of legislative events. So for that reason, I'm proud to introduce Tom Foley to discuss more about his ideas for this and what we intend to do going forward with the question of ethics here in Connecticut.
Thank you, Joe. Senator Markley and I worked together on Senate Bill 727 following a long conversation last winter about ethics at the Capitol. After having my own taste of resistance to cleaning up questionable practices here, I have a lot of admiration for Senator Markley and his courage challenging long accepted but unacceptable practices in our state government. I came here, as you know, several weeks ago to testify at the GAE committee hearing in support of SB 727. I thought promoting a straightforward, good government bill would be easy. I thought my testimony would be followed by something like this. You've got a good point there. Thank you for coming. We'll look into this. Boy, was I wrong. Instead, I was attacked for my service to my country in Iraq, for not understanding how things work at the Capitol, and for having the gumption to come into the legislative office building to criticize its practices. You wouldn't think legislators would be so brazen as to shout down someone trying to throw cold water on corruption. Shame on me for thinking the citizens are paying for this place, and our legislators want to hear from them. Senate Bill 727 is a good bill, and a badly needed one, as Senator Markley just explained. Despite the contentions of its detractors, it is not complicated. It simply says that public officials, including members of the General Assembly, cannot receive more than $1,000 in income annually from a public employee union, large state contractor, or lobbying firm while serving in office. What reasonable person can object to this restriction? And yet, members of the GAE committee, some of whom I suspect had either not read the bill or misunderstood its terms, immediately jumped on it as too broad, claiming the bill would extend to virtually every large employer in Connecticut and disqualify most of the General Assembly from being able to serve. This is simply untrue. GA committee chairs Musto and Jutila several days later refused to even put discussion of the bill on their agenda, so it was not even given a chance for a vote. That was it. No discussion, Not even, hey, good idea, but it needs some work. Senator Markley and I are not so easily deterred. We have gone to work. We met with the Office of State Ethics, seeking their advice on how to ensure that the intent and the language of the bill are aligned and sync up with current ethics statutes. The OSC provided some very useful advice. In fact, the OSC let us know that they have requested similar legislation for eliminating exactly the same kind of conflicts for at least the last 4 years, every year, but also have been unable to get that legislation out of the GAE committee. The language proposed by the Office of State Ethics included a requirement for recusal of public officials' other employer, or if a public official's other employer receives a financial benefit from legislation before the General Assembly. The other employer language that they used is much broader than ours. And it was again recently removed from by the GA committee from sections 6 and 7 of an act concerning ethics reform, which is part of Senate Bill 900, currently before the General Assembly. Someone should ask who on the GAE committee is against this simple and badly needed ethics reform. Senator Markley and I then set out to determine how many General Assembly members would in fact be affected by SB 727. We compared the financial filings of members against the proposed prohibitions in the bill. And here's what we found. 11 of the 154 members who currently have financial information on file would be affected by the bill. Of those 11, 4 are employees of public employee unions. 5 receive income from large state contractors, and 2 have relationships with lobbying firms. 2 are Republicans, and 7 are Democrats. At least 3 of the 11 hold senior leadership positions in the General Assembly. This confirms for me that the bill is not too broad, but that it is badly needed. I support Senator Markley and SB 727. I am surprised and disappointed that the co-chairs of the GAE committee and other legislators have tried to find fault with this bill and have done their best to bury it. This is a good government bill. You cannot be for good government and be against this bill. The Circle the Wagons effort to slap down this legislation is even more disappointing when Governor Cuomo is championing similar measures in New York. Governor Cuomo is trying to eliminate the same egregious conflicts as we are, following recent high-profile indictments of New York legislators. Governor Cuomo has called for legislators' financial filings to be posted online to make them more easily available to citizens. This is an initiative we should adopt too, but I understand a proposal to do that here was recently also slapped down. Connecticut does not have a good record on ethics and corruption. Too many nutmeggers serving in office end up retiring to our overcrowded prisons. And it isn't getting better. A recent speaker is under a cloud at this time. A former state representative just this week was revealed to be lobbying for an out-of-state company on workers' compensation matters when he is serving as chairman of the state's Workmen's Compensation Advisory Board. They should be spared. The citizens of Connecticut deserve better, and they should be spared these tawdry conflicts that erode public confidence and too often end up as embarrassing prosecutions. SB 727 is a good start, but it addresses only a small part of the cozy relationships at the Capitol. Income being paid to public officials is one of the easiest places to spot and eliminate conflicts of interest. Harder to spot are instances of income being paid to public officials after they leave office in exchange for favors done while in office, or favors done in office in exchange for contributions to a campaign for re-election. People come to me all the time with stories of wrongdoing, ever since I was a candidate for governor in 2010. The pace picked up considerably after my appearance here several weeks ago, as you can imagine. Most of these stories are unsubstantiated, but some seem credible. For example, I was told that a senior member of the governor's administration, who was involved in providing a very lucrative First Five incentive program to a company, now has a highly paid consulting contract with that company. If this is true, whether or not it is illegal, it is unacceptable. Governor Malloy should forbid members of his administration from accepting arrangements like this that, at the very least, give the appearance of self-dealing. Another story circulating is that a member of the governor's administration saw a large increase in his law firm's state bonding business after the governor took office. And a third is that large state contractors and receivers of state job incentives are feeling pressure to make large contributions to the Democratic Governors Association or political action committees supporting Democratic campaigns, including the governor's. If this is true, it is, of course, a crime, both for the public official and for the organization making the contribution. We need to watch very closely for any connection between state money being handed out for contracts or job incentives and campaign contributions being made in return. This is particularly true now that corporations and unions can contribute millions of dollars to a single campaign. We have one-party rule now in Connecticut. Most of our senior elected law enforcement officials are Democrats. I worry they won't be as diligent about uncovering wrongdoing by their fellow party members as they would if we had more balanced representation by both parties in state government. The Connecticut Press Corps has in the past been diligent and helpful investigating wrongdoing. John Lender, Kevin Rennie, our own Ken Dixon, who's here today, Chris Powell, and others have uncovered significant wrongdoing among our public officials. I hope I haven't left anyone off this list. I applaud their work. We need them more than ever, but media budgets are under a lot of pressure. I worry that their resources are no longer sufficient to keep the watchful eye they have in the past. I call on Governor Malloy to join me in a broad-based effort to restore public confidence in our state government. Business as usual at the Capitol is less than what the citizens deserve. We must change accepted practices that are unacceptable. Governor Malloy could and should set a new standard for members of his administration. That standard should be that even the appearance of a conflict is unacceptable. I encourage members of the General Assembly to do the same and show the citizens of Connecticut that our government is here to serve the people and not the other way around. Let's clean this up. It's not that hard, and it's the right thing to do. And it may even feel good once it's done. I want to thank the hundreds of citizens from all around the state who have rallied behind our effort. I hope more of you will join us. Let's make this a movement so those standing in its way cannot stop us. If you want to know how you can help, please visit our Facebook site at Clean It Up CT, and don't forget the CT at the end. Together we can stop business as usual at the Capitol and get the government our citizens deserve.